in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
What is up, y'all? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. I'm here with my co-host Ian Gibson. How are you, Ian?
I'm doing very good here.
Hey, so this is week 6 of the college football season. We're going to do the preview show here today. This is Wednesday, and let's get into it. So week 6 poses a lot of matchups. Ian, I sent you the list. It's one of the longest lists I think we've ever had, because I think it's 20 or 21 games, which usually we're around like 12 to 15 games. But again, now because of the expanded playoff, there are so much more interesting games and relevant to the whole breadth of college football. So it opens the door for, like, this week I put on a Duke game that, you know, normally I wouldn't put on, but they're 5-0. So, like, you kind of got to talk about them, considering their schedule gets a little interesting the rest of the year. You know, Iowa State's on there. We haven't even talked about them much at all, really, outside the Iowa game. So they're going to get some play there. So there's a lot of games that we normally probably wouldn't talk about, but because of what the expanded playoff has done, it really does open the door for teams that never would have had a chance. Now they actually legitimately have a chance. So let's dive into it. The first game, and I really have this game on here because of UNLV and because of the situation with their quarterback leaving, redshirting and quitting on the team. It's an interesting, team. UNLV won their game after he left, and now they are playing up against a good Syracuse team who beat Tech 3 weeks ago. And I don't know too much about UNLV because obviously they are not a team that is like that big on the radar. But again, the one thing that I have noticed was their offense, which is gotten a lot of pub because last year Florida fans really wanted their offensive coordinator, who does the go-go offense. I can't remember his name, but he's a young guy. I don't know. This Syracuse team only has one loss so far this year. This is a really good game, a sneaky good game that's on Friday. And, it could be something that, with a national audience, UNLV gets a lot of leeway with the media, especially with the playoff committee. So this would be a huge win for them if they could pull this off. I don't know. Ian, I want to hear your thoughts before I give my prediction.
Yeah, so obviously between the two teams, UNLV's gone under the news mostly because of their quarterback Sluka, redshirting and quitting with whole NIL unpayments and that whole Pandora's box. And as a Gator fan, we know we had to deal with that with Jalen Rashada. So sympathetic to the cause there. But other than that, they easily a distraction like that can really hurt a team. But UNLV, they've been, they're undefeated right now, number 20 for the nation. They have a very, very good run offense right now. I think they're in like the top, at least in the Mountain West, they're top 2 in or top 3 in the Mountain West in terms of rushing offense. Blew out Fresno State, and I know they beat Kansas by a field goal. But they've been clicking. But on the other side, Syracuse, they had a tough loss against Stanford right after the Georgia Tech game. But Kyle McCord is really coming into his own. He has 14 touchdowns already this year. Really has excelled in his role at Syracuse. And I think you see that sometimes. I don't even think he did bad at Ohio State, but maybe not to the level that Ohio State fans are expecting. So sometimes that, that spotlight you can really see how much better a player is once, you're not nitpicking every single detail. And at certain schools, you have to do that because there's a different standard there. But Syracuse has been, fantastic offensively through McCord. If I had to pick in this one, I actually think it's going to shoot out. Mostly for the fact that Syracuse is top 25 in total offense, and I think they're number 3 in passing offense, which UNLV actually has done very good against the run, but they have really struggled in the passing department on certain occasions. So if I had to take a pick in this one, I think it's going to be a shootout, but I feel like Syracuse edge them out there because they just overall, with or without, the quarterback play between the two, I feel like Syracuse has more consistency in the passing game and can stop the run easier. So I'm going to go Orangeman winning. Let's do 31-25.
Yeah, and I again, I don't know too much about either of these teams because I haven't followed Syracuse much, which I probably should, considering they're going to have a lot of bigger matchups here in the ACC coming up. And if UNLV keeps winning, they more than likely have a really good shot of getting the G5 slot for the playoff. So I feel like, UNLV has more to lose here because if they lose this game, then this is their big opportunity to really show on the big stage that they belong. And I feel like if they lose this game, the rest of their schedule is not difficult at all. There's no one really that foreboding outside of Oregon State. And I feel like this is a real opportunity to show who they are, how good they are, that they don't need Sluka. And I feel like this game is more to them than to Syracuse, which it does mean to Syracuse because obviously they want to keep winning, especially after that loss to Stanford. But, Syracuse, I don't know. I mean, you're taking a cross-country flight. Stanford just did that with their flight to Syracuse and won, so it doesn't necessarily mean that much. But I feel like UNLV is going to win this one. I know it's outside of anything I know, just because of obviously Ian, you know these two teams better than I do. But I'm just going to go with what the things that I'm seeing, what it means to UNLV being on the big stage. And I feel like UNLV is going to get the win. I'm going to say close, probably like a 31-28 game. And, it's going to be probably one of those ones where it's like a last-second field goal that UNLV gets to win. Okay, let's move on to UCLA Penn State. I feel really bad for this UCLA team because there is decent talent. Obviously, the last 3-4 years, they've had decent teams and decent records. This is not going to be one of them. And this Penn State team is rolling right now, especially after a really good win against Illinois. I don't really like UCLA at all in this game. I saw someone saying that James Franklin covers most of the time. And I just don't feel like that's the case here because UCLA has done a really good job of keeping some of the games close, like the LSU game. But they got blown out against Indiana and blown out against Oregon. I don't think Penn State can score as much as those other two teams. Like LSU and Oregon, I feel like some of the better offenses in the country. Penn State is not in that category. They're good rushing the ball, but Alar is just a liability. I have never liked this kid. I just never seen it. I know they got the new offensive coordinator, the guy from Kansas, and he's done some things, but I haven't seen them really impress that much. The Illinois game was really close. It was 21-7, and they had a late score to really put that game away. But, for the most part, offensively, Penn State is not really impressing anyone. Their defense on the other side, though, is really good. They held West Virginia in check. They definitely held Illinois in check. I feel like Penn State is going to be able to definitely keep this UCLA offense in check. Garbers has struggled mightily. I'm going to say they probably hold them to like 14 points at most. And Penn State doesn't even need to score that much. I'm going to say 24-14. That's what I'm going to go with. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, I think both of these for Penn State, I feel very, very similar with Oregon, maybe with lesser expectations, but like with Penn State, you're in the top 10 and they started in the top 10 and we were winning to see had a great start against West Virginia. Then they struggled against Boston College, rightfully blew out Kent State, and then really were stuck in the mud against Illinois. This is another one of those games where, prove how much better you are and prove doubters wrong, like what we were saying about Oregon. Penn State, I just think, right now is better than UCLA. So go out there and prove it. So I think hopefully Penn State can get it together. I don't think it's going to be what we expect Oregon to put like 50 points up, but I think Penn State's going to control the game. I just don't see UCLA. They're really spiraling right now, and I don't really see them getting more than I don't think they've gotten more than. They haven't even hit the 20-point mark this. I don't see that happening in this one. So I'm going to go Nittany Lions winning. I'll go with 35-14 on Lions.
Okay, next one. Really sneaky big game. I guess it's not that sneaky. Both are ranked, but Missouri's in the top 10. But Missouri going up against Texas A&M in College Station. I really like this matchup. Missouri had the bye week last week, so they're a little rested, which honestly is perfect for them coming into this game. Texas A&M is coming off a tough game against Arkansas, which they barely won. This Texas A&M team with the quarterback situation that they have with Wegman being out, and now the backup that's in there, I think his name is, what is his name? Sneed? No.
It is.
One second. Reed, Sneed. I don't know. I saw Sneed somewhere else. No, Marcel Reed. No, he's done adequate, and he looked really good against Florida, but Florida's defense is terrible. Arkansas is surprisingly a really good team, and Marcel Reed did enough to win the game. I think they had the ground game going in that situation, which really made the difference there, and also the fact that Arkansas turned the ball over quite a bit. I like A&M in this game, but a lot of A&M success is because they've gotten a lot of turnovers. They're +6 on the turnover margin. They forced a lot of picks throughout the year. I don't know. I still like Mizzou because they're coming off that bye. They're going to be a little bit healthier. Luther Burden III is a stud. The kid is amazing out there. I think Cook does enough because I don't think A&M has seen quite the quarterback play that they've seen out of Cook, which Cook is one of the better ones in the SEC. I think he's able to pick them apart a little bit. I think Missouri's defense is good enough to stop A&M's attack. I'm going to say probably A&M scores like 20 points, and I'm going to say like Missouri scores like 30. So 30-20. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, and I really think the defense is going to be what stands out here. Missouri has, I think, the number 3 defense in the entire country. They have been fantastic this year. As we expected, the defense, was the kind of selling point for Mizzou this year. They the rushing attack has been very good. They've had a lot of scares though. Obviously the Vandy game, they slept on that one. And BC, and that one kind of went the way I expected it though, because I think those two teams are that's like the ACC equivalent of Missouri to me. They blew out Buffalo and they blew out, I think it was Murray State. But I think with A&M, A&M again struggled, against Arkansas, but they won, and then they struggled against Bowling Green. I guess Bowling Green is like everybody's, quicksand.
Yeah, that's good.
They beat Florida, but take that for your 2 cents. I think, man, because there's a lot of both these teams need to prove something, and I know this is the first time Missouri's played at College Station since 2015, and they won that one. So I think I think I'm going to take Missouri in this one very close. This is one that I can go the other way though, but I think Missouri is more complete right now, especially in the run game, to win out in this kind of game. So I'm going to take the Tigers winning. I'll go low scoring. I'll go like 23-17.
Nice. Okay. Next game we have is SMU Louisville. Now, Jennings looked good last week against Florida State. Granted, Florida State is pretty garbage right now. So, it's not really saying much. But the week before, they beat TCU pretty handedly. He didn't do much in that game. There was a lot of turnovers by TCU that led to SMU scores. So he didn't have to do much in that one either. I still like him to be able to do enough. The game is in Louisville. So, coming off a loss for Louisville, where, Sluck looked really good. I'm going to say that SMU probably puts a scare in them. But I think Louisville is going to win this one because it's a home game for Louisville. I think the crowd's going to be pumped. I think that loss to Notre Dame was really close. They had their opportunities, and I think that Louisville comes back in this one and really sets their foot in firmly in the race for the ACC crown, or for at least for the ACC championship game. I'm going to say Louisville probably wins. I'm going to say like 28-24, and maybe that SMU gets a late score to make it look closer. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think Louisville, like I said, they dug themselves in a hole. They just committed too many turnovers, and that is going to be the key to this game. If Louisville can get out of their own way and limit mistakes, they will win this game. But we saw with SMU last week against Florida State, TCU, they will jump on opponents. When you make a mistake, they pounce on them. So that's going to be Louisville's focus, is to make sure you're not, not too many high danger passes. I feel like with the attack, they're going to make, high percentage pass plays for Jennings, or at least, safe run plays as well. I think, or I'm sorry, for show for Louisville. For SMU,
go ahead. I think it's Shuck. That's what it is. I keep saying wrong. It's Shuck. Yes, I heard it the other day, and the guy said it right. It's Shuck. I know it looks weird, like it's not that, but yeah. Go ahead.
With Shuck, they're gonna, like I said, they're gonna focus more on high percentage pass plays, more slant routes, outs, and drags. And for Jennings, I think for SMU, you just keep that offense running, keep that Pony Express running, whether it's Jennings on the ground, read options, or just, throwing it deep. They were excellent on one-on-one coverage against Florida State. So they're going to be trying to find that mismatch. This is going to be very close. I think if it comes down to a shootout, SMU's got a chance. But Louisville, again, top 25 defense in the country. So I think they're going to do enough to stop the Mustangs. I'm going to go Cards winning. I'll go 31-20, 31-26, Louisville.
Nice. Okay, so let's move on. Auburn, Georgia. Usually in years past, this was a huge rivalry game, but Auburn looks terrible the last couple of weeks. They played well enough to beat Oklahoma, besides that late pick six, which was the turning point in the game. But I don't think highly of Oklahoma, so that win is not, or that loss is not the worst in the world. But it also is not great because Again, Oklahoma's not that good, so it doesn't look very good that they lost that team. But they did look better in that game than they looked in the Cal game, than they looked in the Arkansas game. So we'll see. I noticed that Peyton Thorne is now the starter again after that game, even though he threw the pick six. Hugh Freeze wants to stick with him. You know, I don't know what their situation is after that. I know the kid that came in the Arkansas game had like 3 picks or whatever. So, like, obviously he struggled as well. Peyton Thorne, I don't know what to say. He's not overwhelming. He's just kind of whelming. He's just an average quarterback. But the problem is this team around him is not great right now. So they need a better quarterback to be able to win these games, which he is not. So that is a struggle there. Georgia coming off that loss to Alabama, very tough loss. They put everything into the comeback, got the lead, and still lost. So it has to be devastating in some way. But I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think Georgia's going to smoke them. I think it's going to be Georgia rebounding. Georgia's probably going to win this game like 42 to like 14. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, for Auburn, their offense has been spinning out of control. We've seen it. They somehow blew it against Oklahoma, and they really failed to get anything going against Arkansas and Cal. So all their, with the exception of Alabama A&M and New Mexico, they have consistently they only got more than 20 points once, and that was the Oklahoma game last week, not including a group of five or a Division II or FCS team. Now you got to play Georgia. Yeah. No doubt, like the only team that does good against Georgia's defense is Alabama, and that's it. So now you got to go up against that. Not only that, it's in Athens, and the last time I did the homework, the last time Auburn beat Georgia in Athens was in 2005.
Wow.
It has been a long time.
20 years.
That's yeah. So, and even then, I think that was a 1-point win. So I don't think, history is looking good for Auburn just in general the past week and the past 20 years. So I'm going to take the Bulldogs. Plus, you lose for Georgia. We've seen it when teams lose heartbreakers like that. They come out angry and pray for Auburn in this one. I'll say I'm going to go Bulldogs winning. I'll go 40-14.
Nice. Okay. Next game we got Iowa, Ohio State. Now this Iowa team, lost to Iowa State, and then, they had a decent game the game after that where they won 31-14 against, I believe, Minnesota. And they, their offense is limited. They run the ball very well, but their passing game is almost non-existent. And that's been the case for the last 10 years at least, maybe more, where this offense is just in the Stone Age. And, their defense is strong and solid, but this Ohio State team is loaded. I'm talking top to bottom, probably the most loaded team we've seen in the last several years outside of the Georgia teams. And, this Ohio State team has Quinshon Judkins running the ball, has Will Howard, who's thrown for, who already has 14 TDs total. Jeremiah Smith, who is arguably the biggest freak of a freshman outside of Ryan Williams we've seen the last 5 years. And, the defense is just stout as can be. And, they really haven't played anyone yet. And that is the true, underpinning of this story of Ohio State. And it does kind of tarnish how good they are. But the last 8 games of their schedule are going to show who they really are, and they're going to actually have to play teams. So, they are going to show it in this game. I think they're going to beat the living crap out of this Iowa team. I like Ohio State big. I'm going to say Ohio State wins like 49 to like 10. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, one thing to note with Iowa, they were joking and harping about how the offense has improved. They have scored over, 40 points. That was Illinois State. They did score, over 30 against Troy, Minnesota. They, got stuck in the mud against Iowa State. But the one kind of surprising thing is that now they've kept the scores low, but I think they've averaged more than 200 passing yards a game on defense, which is very surprising. Now you got to guard Jeremiah Smith. That's not a good recipe. And in Columbus, I don't think Iowa has enough firepower to keep up with them. I know this is going to be like, Cade McNamara's, crusade as a former Michigan Wolverine to stop Ohio State, but I don't see it happening. I'm going to take Buckeyes winning. I'll go with, I'll go 38 to 14 win for Ohio State.
Okay, back to the SEC. Ole Miss, South Carolina. Does Ole Miss come back in this instance after that loss to Kentucky, that heartbreaking loss to Kentucky with that late missed field goal? Ian, I want to hear your thoughts, and then I'll jump into mine.
Yeah, it's interesting with this one because this looked like a layup even before the year. We thought, okay, Ole Miss has a very easy schedule. I remember saying that in the preseason show that Ole Miss schedule is very favorable to them. But South Carolina, they beat Kentucky, which just beat Ole Miss, so take that for what you will. They almost and should have beaten LSU. And every team they've played, with the exception of like Old Dominion, which really like bad start. They won like, I think 23-something to Old Dominion. They just blew out Akron. Now you got to go into Columbia. It's not an easy environment to win in. Ole Miss on the road has been, under Kiffin has been good, not great. I think their best road win was that Tennessee game in a hostile environment. That was their best one. I think with this one, it's going to be a matter of can Ole Miss capitalize on their chances. They looked like they were just sleepwalking through that whole Kentucky game. There was no urgency whatsoever throughout the whole game until it was too late. And once once they finally woke up, it was all but gone. South Carolina's defense has been solid, but I feel like the difference is that the one team that's as at least offensively an equivalent of Ole Miss was LSU. And LSU was able to put 30 on them. Now, can South Carolina put up more than 30 to Ole Miss? I'm not sure if they can. I think I'm going to take the Rebels in this one. I think South Carolina does put a scare in them, but the big thing will be early in the game. Can Ole Miss get the crowd out of the game and really see that urgency that they need? Because now you have to play, at your highest level for the rest of the year. So I'm going to go Rebels winning. I think they pull away late, but I'm going to go with a 35-27 win for Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think South Carolina is going to play well in this game because it looks like Sellers is going to play, which if that's the case, then South Carolina should really contend here. But I don't know. I just feel like I think they needed that wake-up call. And that is, again, the beauty of the 12-team playoff. You can lose a game or two and still get in. It doesn't matter. And so it's much like now the NFL where it's like, you know what, you lose a couple games, whatever, get into the tournament. That's all that matters. Get in and anything is possible. Like there were Steeler teams and Giant teams that won from the wild card. Anything is possible. Get in and you can control your own destiny. And so I feel like this Ole Miss team is still very talented and has a lot of pieces. And Lane Kiffin is a very brilliant coach on offense. I feel like they can do enough here in this game to win this game. It's in South Carolina, so I definitely feel the home field advantage for South Carolina, but Ole Miss is good enough to overcome that. I feel like they're going to score at least 28 points, probably 31. And I'm going to say South Carolina probably scores like 28. I'm going to say it's close, 31-28. And I feel like Ole Miss probably gets out of it out of a last second defensive stand. And that's the end of the game. Okay, let's move on to Indiana Northwestern. Yes, we're talking about Indiana and Northwestern, which I don't think I ever thought in the like 9 years that I've done this podcast or YouTube channel or whatever it is now. I never thought we would talk about a game like this, but because Kurt Signetti has this team rolling, I'm talking ninth defensively and eighth offensively in the country. Indiana, or flip-flop that, ninth defensively, ninth offensively, eighth defensively in their yardage stats. Dude, this team is putting up a show and just beating the crap out of every team they play. And, you know, if you don't know about this Indiana team, which I don't think most did, I think I started to realize it when they beat UCLA pretty handedly. This team is a team to contend with. Signetti is an older coach. He's 63, and he was at James Madison before. He actually was a recruiting coordinator back in the day for Alabama when they started to turn things around in 07, 08, 09. And the guy has just been around and been one of a very good coach for a long time. Got his chances, did the best of it at James Madison, where they went from FCS to FBS and really made a scare into people. And now he's got his chance at Indiana. And I'm telling you what, man, the guy is definitely moving up the ranks, like could get a really big time job if he continues to do well at a school that has never done well. Indiana, this is their third ever 5-0 start in the history of their program. And I think it goes back like 120 years. And it's like, you know, Indiana has a really good shot of getting to the playoff if they can continue out. Their schedule is not that daunting. There really only is a few games where they have to just really go like 1-1 in or 1-2 in, and they have a really likely shot at getting into the playoff if they keep winning out. Their schedule is not that great, so it doesn't look that good. But I think if they keep winning out regardless, that they will have an opportunity to get there. So look for this team to do well the rest of the season. And I like their chances immensely in this game. I feel like Northwestern kind of lucked out in some of their games. So I feel like Indiana is going to win this game pretty big. I'm going to go like 45-17. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, one thing to know is not only, you know, they're top 10 in both defense and offense. When I was doing some homework, Northwestern in Big Ten statistics on offense is almost at the bottom. I think they're next to last place in Big Ten on offense. So now you got to go play a top 10 defense. And that just spells disaster. And I don't think Northwestern is going to get a whole lot of opportunities to really be punching with the Hoosiers here. So I'm going to go Indiana points few. They're going to win at that, beach soccer field area, which I don't care what anybody says. That's an awesome look.
Yeah, I do kind of want to go to a game up there, just like at one point, if it's like they get like Ohio State up there or like Michigan, I think that'd be really fun to go check out a game there.
Yeah. But regardless, I'm going to take Indiana winning. I'm going to go 38. I've been saying 38 a lot. 42-17.
Nice. And just a side note, Signetti is definitely moving up the ranks as well. And like Florida fans have been taking notice. So there is a chance. I know he's older, but he definitely has that MO of, scoring, and he also patterns his offenses around the players that he has and doesn't just stick with a system. He utilizes the traits that his players have to make the most out of them. And it's doing quite well. It did great at James Madison. His like FBS record overall is quite astounding. So let's move on to Rutgers, Nebraska. Now, this game is on here because Rutgers is undefeated and Nebraska has only one loss. I really like this Nebraska team. I've liked them all year. I like them still to be in contention going into the Ohio State game. So we'll see. This Rutgers team, they've won some of these games kind of like smoke and mirrors. They're 48th on offense, 69th on defense. They had a pretty solid win against Vatek where they kept them in check offensively. And it wasn't until late in the game that Vatek really came back in that one. And especially after how good Vatek looked against Miami. So that does look good for Rutgers. I still like Nebraska in this game because, one, it's in Nebraska. I feel like that holds an advantage, even though, Illinois did win. I think that loss for Nebraska probably did them a lot of good because going into this game, I think they're more prepared for this one. I think they're ready to take on a team like Rutgers. I think they match up well against them because defensively, they're not like that amazing. So I feel like Nebraska can move the ball, which Dylan Raiola is really strong and had a really good season so far. I think defensively, Nebraska might be okay against them. I think Rutgers will still be able to score some points. I'm going to say like Rutgers scores like 24, and I'm going to say like Nebraska scores like 30. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, it's going to come down to Rutgers having to score more than, I would say, 27, 28 points to beat Nebraska. The one thing to note, too, is while, doing, the statistical lookup, they're both flip-flopped on offenses in terms of the Big Ten, middle of the pack. But Nebraska has been far better defensively against these teams like this compared to Rutgers. Rutgers, they did hold, Vatek 23 and Washington 18. But I think Nebraska is more well-equipped in this kind of game. And also, too, like you said, it's in Lincoln. It's really tough to win unless you're Illinois for some reason. So I'm going to go Nebraska winning. I do think it's going to be close, and I think Rutgers does get to at least like 20-ish points. But Nebraska just edges them out. It might come down to a field goal. I'll go with 27-24 win for the Cornhuskers.
Okay, next game we got is West Virginia, Oklahoma State. This Oklahoma State team is reeling after losses to Utah and then getting smoked by Kansas State. I feel like this West Virginia team, after that win against Kansas, they lost to Pitt and they lost to Penn State, but I like both those two teams. I feel like this West Virginia team is just hitting its stride. I feel like they'll be able to beat this team. I'm not a fan of Bowman. Their offensive attack has been very lacking for the most part, Oklahoma State, but I like West Virginia's offense a lot. And so with Green, and I feel like West Virginia is going to be able to put up at least 34 points, and I don't think Oklahoma State is going to be able to put up more than 28. So I'm going to go with 35-24. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, Oklahoma State really needs to. They are spinning. You pointed it out. They need to keep something together right now. They went out to K-State, lost to Utah. The score did not tell the story of that game. The best win has been that overtime win against Arkansas. On the other side, West Virginia, they get really beaten against Penn State, and they've edged out Kansas, and then they lose the backyard brawl. This is actually a close one. I'm gonna take OK State only on the fact that I think this is gonna be a shootout, and I think OK State's more well equipped in that scenario. And if they can feed it to Ollie Gordon, this is what I'm saying at the point with Ollie Gordon.
I know.
use screen passes at this point. The
Yeah.
running game is not working. The offensive line is not helping out. But if you can swing them out and use screen passes, that is how you use your best running back effectively. So I'm going to take OK State winning. I think it's going to be one of those stereotypical Big 12 shootouts, but I'm going to go Cowboys winning. I'll go, let's go 42-38.
Nice. Okay. Alabama, Vanderbilt. This is a surprising game because Alabama is obviously coming off that huge win against Georgia. And so they may take it easy, thinking, oh, yeah, we can just put this on autopilot and get through this game easy. But Vanderbilt is very good with Pavia, and he is solid on the ground and just a very capable quarterback. I feel like Vanderbilt can put a scare into him, but I don't think they're going to win. I think it's going to be like a close game, like a 35-28 game where, Alabama, is, ahead, and then like maybe Vanderbilt scores late to make it a little bit closer. But yeah, so 35-28. I like Alabama a lot going forward. They're a very good team. They played very well on offense against Georgia in that first half, and I think that's going to continue into this game. And I think, like I said, it may be closer just because Vanderbilt now actually has an offense. So, yeah, like I said, 35-28. What do you got, Ian?
So, once again, stat nerd here.
Yeah.
The last time Vandy has beaten Alabama, just in general, was in 1984.
Oh,
that was
God.
Florida's first SEC. Okay, first, I'm going to put not quotations. Screw it. Their first SEC championship. So, yeah. And even before that, that was in Tuscaloosa. Last time they won in Nashville was 1969. And the Mets just won the World Series at that point, their first World Series. So, as good as Vandy has been, there's a lot of history riding against them, and I usually don't bet against history, so I'm going to take Bama winning. I think Vandy will put up points. I don't think they're going to get shut out like they did last time, but I'm going to go Bama. I don't see anybody stopping Ryan Williams, so I'm going to go 45-10, Bama.
Okay, next game. Speaking of another blowout, Clemson, FSU. The game is in Tallahassee. DJ Ugalele is not starting. I think Brock Glenn is getting the start finally. And so, DJ doesn't get his chance to go up against his old team. But Brock Glenn, I'm not impressed with him either. I think Clemson has looked good outside of that Georgia game. They looked really good against NC State. They smoked App State. I really think Clemson can take it to them. Their offense has been putting up numbers. So I'm going to say Clemson puts up 45, and I'm going to say FSU probably like 14 at most. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, for Brock Glenn coming in, he is yet to throw a touchdown pass in his career. So this is really a tough way to get thrown into it. This is also to note, interestingly, Clemson's first road game. Technically, they played that wasn't even a neutral site. It's in Atlanta. Okay, their second road game.
Atlanta. I know.
Yeah, so their second road game, because I can't even count it. If you put it in Atlanta and you're playing Georgia, that's a Georgia game in a dome.
Yeah.
But regardless, I don't see, again, Florida State has only scored more than 20 points once, and that was the beginning of the year, and they lost. Now they got Brock Glenn in, and I don't know who can put in a quarterback to really kind of fix this situation, because there's just no oomph on this offense at all. There's no synergy like I said they had last year. And the defense has been very, has been a sieve. They keep getting gashed. I just don't see Florida State putting up much of a fight. Maybe Brock Glenn is the ignition, but I just don't see it. I'm going to go Tigers winning. I'm going to go 35-16.
Okay, next game, Utah State, Boise State. I don't know too much about Utah State. I'm only really talking about this because we haven't talked much about Heisman specific players like we used to. But I think we might start in the next couple of weeks because we're getting into the meat of the schedule. But Boise State's quarterback, Genty, is just unreal. and he has put up, a crazy stat line already. Yeah, Ashton Genty, 845 yards, 13 TDs in, a 4-game span, only 80 rushes to get that 845. So he's basically he's got a 10-yard average. Every run he has is like a 60-yard run. It's crazy. The kid is super fast. He's probably one of the fastest kids in college football. He's from the state of Florida, which, any one of these schools in the state of Florida would be glad to have had this kid, but for whatever reason, he ended up at Boise State. I'm only really talking about this Boise State team because Genty is just amazing. I'm going to say Boise State wins pretty big, like 35-20. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, and another thing to note, like I said, Utah State's defense has been really bad. I actually think they might have one of the worst defenses in the country. And now, especially against the run, they've been averaging almost 200 yards a game. Now you got to go against undoubtedly the best running back in the country. Like you said, he's been averaging 10 yards. Good luck. This is those situations where if you're Utah, you got to shoot out and you got to have quick possessions. I don't think Boise State's going to allow that to happen. I'm going to have the Broncos winning this one. I'm going to go with a 35-17 win for Boise State.
Okay. This is my upset pick. Tennessee going up against Arkansas. I don't know. I mean, it's in Arkansas. I feel like Arkansas has enough to be able to contend with this Tennessee team. I know Tennessee looks good, but they played against an NC State team that obviously is a fraud. NC State struggled against Western Carolina. I knew they weren't going to be that good this year when I saw that game. And then the other team that they beat was Oklahoma, which Oklahoma, again, I don't feel that strongly on. They barely beat that Auburn team, and they needed that pick 6 just to do it. I feel like this Arkansas team has enough on offense. Green is very solid. He can make a lot of the throws. He's very athletic. I think he's going to have Tennessee in fits, not being able to control him in the pocket because he'll be able to escape. And I feel like they're going to be able to move the ball effectively on them. Offensively, Tennessee has enough to obviously beat them, but I feel like Arkansas does enough on defense to be able to keep them in check. And I feel like what's swaying me here is that Green and their offense is going to be able to do enough to be able to beat them. So I got Arkansas here. I'm going to say like 31 to like 27. What do you got, Ian?
I would agree with you if it wasn't. Now I get it wasn't maybe the prettiest looking score, but Tennessee just dominated that game against Oklahoma, and it was on the road. Similar situation with Arkansas. It was at night. There was a lot of emotions in that one. I just don't see Arkansas putting up enough points against this Tennessee offense. I think Tennessee's offense, in my opinion, is probably the best in the country right now. I don't see really any holes in their, especially their passing attack. But Arkansas would need to score. When it's these type of games, I'm thinking, how many points do you need to score? More, just in general, shoot for this many points and you'll win the game. Arkansas would have to score more than like 35, and they've only done that like once this year, and that was against. No, they lost 39-31. Did they get more than 35 against? Sure, they've done it once to a Division I team, so I just don't see Arkansas keeping up. I think Tennessee just pulls away with it. I would love to be wrong about this one as a Gator fan, but I just don't see it. I'm going to go Tennessee winning. I'll go like 45-28.
Okay, moving on. Rematch of last year's CFP championship game. Michigan going up against Washington in Seattle. I don't like either of these teams this year. I think they're both not very good. Michigan somehow beat USC with a lot of luck from the Zebras. So I'm going to say Michigan wins this one because Washington does not look good. I'm going to say Michigan wins this one, probably like a 21-17 game. And I still don't like Michigan the rest of the year. I'm fading them, and I feel like selling their stock is the right move. I feel like they're at least another 2 losses, maybe even 3 losses by the end of the year. Ian, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was gonna say this was my upset pick, but I don't know how much of it is. I get Michigan's number 10, but the run game is gonna have to be the crutch of this attack, and there's only so far it can go. There's no passing game to complement the run game. It's very one-dimensional and very atypical. And Washington has actually done a pretty good job of limiting teams. No team has scored more than 30 points this year against the Huskies. And for Michigan, I don't see them really working that well offensively compared to Washington. Washington has Will Rogers. He's already, we knew how good he was at Mississippi State. Perfect offense for him here. So I think they're going to be able to get enough points on. I'm going to take Huskies in an upset. I'll go 27-20, 27-20 Huskies. But I wasn't in the championship last year.
Yeah. So moving on to one of the teams we cover, USC, Minnesota. It's in Minnesota. I don't love this Minnesota team. I saw a bunch of fans on Twitter because I follow a lot of USC fans, and they're going up against these Minnesota fans saying the Minnesota fans are saying, oh, they have the number 1 passing defense. And then I went back and look at the games that they played against the teams they played, and they held all those teams to very low totals. And then I looked at the numbers for those passing offenses. One was 100th, and 2 of them were 120 or worse. So literally the 3 worst passing offenses you could play all year, and they have played 3 of them. And so that is inflated their stat line and why they're so up there for passing defense. And that first game against UNC, Max Johnson was hurt. If he plays in that game, I'm sure he puts up at least 200, 250 yards. I know the backup did not play that well the rest of that game either. He's gone on to the quarterback situation for UNC has gotten better, but still in that game, obviously, was because of that injury. It really kind of derailed things. But no, Minnesota, I know you like to think that you might be that great because of that pass defense for that ranking, but it doesn't mean anything. You're going up against a real passing offense. Miller Moss is one of the better quarterbacks in the country. He proved it again in that Wisconsin game, and he's going to prove it again here. I know this is a kind of a trap game because next week they have that big game against Penn State in LA, but I think USC is going to be really amped for this game, especially after getting a really solid win against Wisconsin. I like USC in this game. I like them big. I like them 42 to like 20 in this game. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, for USC, clearly this is going to be Minnesota's best offense they're going to play. And Miller Moss, like I said last week, is probably the best passing quarterback in the country, in my opinion. So this is going to be like, you're really going to talk that talk. You better back it up now because this is your test. And I just think USC, while I think Michigan's got a better defense than Minnesota, and they were the only ones that could really limit Miller Moss in the offense. But that was they could only do that for one half, and they were able to the only other time they really got him was when they baited him on a read pass play. And even then, Moss showed his hand when he threw that pick six. But the narrative, besides that, Minnesota, now the narrative has been, and this has been since USC's going to the Big Ten, is now you got to beat teams on the road. And USC didn't pass that test. They lost to Michigan on the road. Now you got to go back to up north, probably colder weather. It's in October in Minneapolis, so maybe a bit warmer. But now that's going to be a narrative USC is going to have to buck is beating these Big Ten teams up north on the road. I think they get it done here. Credit Minnesota offensively has not been that high powered, so I think it might be a bit easier. So I'm going to go Trojans winning. I go 37-17.
Nice. Okay. Moving on to Baylor, Iowa State. Iowa State's undefeated right now, and they are coming off a shutout victory over Houston, where they forced three turnovers and held Houston under 250 total yards, and held them to 1 of 10 on 3rd and 4th down. So, Iowa State's defense is looking really strong. Not that Houston is a really titan of offense, but that is a really good performance against an FBS team. Baylor struggled. They had that comeback loss against Colorado, which really kind of hampered things. I like Iowa State here. They have a really good shot to contend in the Big 12, and they need a victory here. And I think they'll get it. It's in Ames. I like Iowa State. I'm going to say Iowa State wins 27-20. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, same here. I just think Iowa State defensively is too strong for Baylor right now. Iowa State, I always said, if there was a team to jump to the Big Ten from the Big 12 again, it was Iowa State because they're practically a Big Ten team. The heavy offense and or heavy defense offensively, we'll cross that bridge when we build it. But Iowa State, I got them winning this one. I think they'll have a balanced offensive attack and they'll keep Baylor in check offensively. I'm going to go Cyclones. Let's go with a 28-17 win.
Nice. Okay. Florida UCF. This game, I was hoping 3 years ago when they fired Dan Mullen and they lost to UCF in that bowl game, I was hoping that Florida would be in a place at this point where they were doing well, recruiting well, having the team on a much better ground, and they're coming into this game 2-2. Looked really bad in those both losses, and I feel like UCF also got humiliated last week, so I'm not feeling that terrible about it. But I mean, the narrative about Florida the last couple of weeks has been that Billy should be fired. And it's like, I don't even know what to make of this. I want to win this game probably more than any game the rest of the year, just because I hate mid-Florida fans so much. And, I don't want to lose this game. But it's at the same time, I realize how bad Billy is. I mean, I saw reports of Billy talking about this was the best bye week they've had, and that Graham Mertz has been in 6 years in college football, and this was the best bye. What are we talking about? Best bye week? What does that even mean? That means nothing to me. I don't care. You need to have done all these things where they were talking about dealing with hand signals for fast offenses. You need to have implemented that earlier. You need to do that in spring ball, in the fall camp, and then the offensive line has finally found their rotation. What? You needed to know this stuff way earlier. There's no reason for any of this to have been going on. I'm sorry, but it's so JV. This stuff is counterintuitive to how a major program should be run. And I think we have all tired of this act, and I just want to see it over. But I want to see a win here, but I just don't see it. I really feel like UCF is going to win because UCF is going to run all over them. And that's just the reality. And it's this defense can't stop anybody. They're the 123rd rushing defense in the country. And, they let Mississippi State run all over them when Mississippi State was one of the worst teams for rushing. UCF is one of the top rushing offenses. They're 5th in the country. I don't respect KJ Jefferson that much. passing attack, but it doesn't matter here. They're going to be able to run for 350 yards minimum, and if they're running out the clock, Florida's never going to get the ball. And I'm going to say like 35 to like 22. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, and I don't know if I've told you, but I'm actually going to be at this game. I'm going to be at this one, so I'll get the as fun as that's going to be. Good. I always like seeing them play the Florida teams. They're not in this context, but
yeah,
I agree. And I went back on it, and this is something I've told you about me and my cousin George, and he brought this up under Napier, and just in general for the past since 2020. Florida defensively has been beyond god awful against mobile quarterbacks. You can bring any of them up, and they have struggled and or lost that game. And went back to it. They have KJ Jefferson on UCF now. KJ Jefferson in that game last year had over 300 yards of total offense. It was 250 passing and almost 100 rushing. And like we saw with them playing against Cam Ward, who is the best mobile quarterback in the country. And even then, I feel like if you use mobile quarterback, that's like a diminutive to their passing, because I think Cam Ward's a way better passer than anybody given the credit for. But regardless, they just can't. If the quarterback can move out of the pocket, they just don't know what to do with themselves. And you mentioned, rushing defense has been atrocious. They allowed over 400 yards against Mississippi State, even though they won. It's going to be one of those things where you got to hope it's a shootout, and Florida's like the last team you want in a shootout right now. So I just don't see it. UCF, I think with KJ Jefferson and how their attack is, especially on hurry up, Tennessee has a book, really besides last year, Tennessee showed you how you can beat an offense or beat a defense like this. So as much as I said this, as excited as I am to go to the game with my family, I always love going to the Swamp. This is one of the few times where I'm excited to go, but I'm not necessarily excited for the game, if that makes any sense. Because I feel like this is going to be, UCF will win, and they should. I'm not going to take anything away from them if they're the better team. So UCF, I'm going to take them in this one. I'll go with let's go like 30-20 for UCF.
Okay. Let's move on to Duke, Georgia Tech. Like I said, Duke is undefeated, but it looked like they struggled in most of their games. When I was looking at their recaps, they had to go to double overtime with Northwestern, and had to come back against UNC and UConn, who is not very good. I like Tech in this game because I think Tech has played better against better teams, and their record shows that. They played well against Louisville, played well against Syracuse. They beat Florida State. I think they're more battle tested. It's in Atlanta. I feel like Tech can win this game. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to say like a 24-20 game. What do you got, Ian?
I agree. I think this is going to be the same kind of low-scoring affair. And in the end, that's where you need your playmakers, and I feel like Georgia Tech has more right now. I'm going to go Tech winning again in a close one, and they've been here before in these tough, muddy situations. So I'll go Yellow Jackets winning. I'll go with let's go like 20-16 win for Georgia Tech.
Yeah, it's going to be close. I think both these teams are pretty evenly matched, but Tech, I think, has the advantage because I like their coach more than I like Manny Diaz at Duke. Okay, last game, College Game Day is there, and I may or may go. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I really only have to just get like a rental car to be able to drive up there. But Miami versus Cal in Cal Berkeley, so Miami's got to travel all the way across the country to play this game. College Game Day is going to be up at 6 a.m. Pacific time, which is crazy for people to be out there. But I might drive all the way up on Friday night just to be there early that morning. I haven't decided if I'm going to do it or not. I'll figure it out when I get closer. Probably like Friday afternoon, I'll decide if I'm going to do it or not. But anyways, this Miami team, struggled last week against Vatek, and they looked better in the games before that. But I think there are some weaknesses there that teams can exploit going forward. Definitely mobile quarterbacks are an issue for this Miami team. Vatek's quarterback had a really good day. He was able to move the ball. Their running attack for Vatek was stellar all day. This Cal team, I don't know too much about them. I know that they played well against Auburn, 3 weeks ago. But as far as, what they'll do against this Miami team, I honestly don't feel like they're going to be that great. They lost to Florida State 14-9, which most everyone has been able to put points on Florida State, and Cal was not able to. This Miami team definitely scores a lot of points. They can put up at least 35 in this game, which I believe they will. Cal looks like defensively, they've only allowed, roughly 14 or less points every game, which is pretty stout, but they've not seen an offense quite like Miami yet this year. I feel like they could probably hold Miami to less than their total, but I feel like Cal is not going to be able to score that much. And I'm going to say like Miami wins like 35 to like 21. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah. Cal in this season wins these games when they bring teams like deep offensively down to their level. And they haven't played an offense like this. For Miami, that Vatek game was clearly them sweeping on the Vatek opponent. They looked sloppy. They were unfocused, undisciplined. And now they need to respond, and they need to make sure that doesn't happen again. You're going to get that red-eye trip going all the way to Cal. And for this one, I feel like Miami knows, you can't do that again. Like I said, with that Vatek game, that's as close as you're going to a wake-up call without losing as you're ever going to get. So I think Miami knows that. They know Cal is going to be, trying to smell an upset, but Cal has not played an offense this. Even if Miami plays at like their worst at offense, I don't see Cal keeping up points-wise with Miami. So I'm going to go Miami winning this one, running away with it. I'll go like 40-20 in this one. Also, shout out to them being called Woke versus Coke. I freaking love college football.
Yes, yeah. I don't know who first came up with that, but I've been seeing it all week. Yeah, so that's our week 6 preview show. So reach us at haterradio.com. Next week, I'm going to have an article about the USC Penn State game. For all of our socials, you can reach us at hater_radio for Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads. For Facebook, it is Hater Radio CFB. For YouTube, it is at Hater Radio. Again, our show is every Wednesday and Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Catch us live and then rebroadcast, uploaded to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and you can find them there. Ian, what are your handles before we go?
Yeah, it's at YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. It's at G_Gator_G.
That's where to find us. Like, subscribe, comment, follow, all of it. Help us out. It helps out the algorithm, gets us in there, gets us, more people wanting to, that can see the show and see everything about us. So, like I said, enjoy these games. Maybe I'll be at game day. Ian's going to be at UCF, Florida. We'll try to check out people, say what's up. I'm going to wear my Hater Radio shirt if I go to the Cal Miami game. If you see me, talk to me, say what's up. But that's the show. Have a good one and enjoy these games.